Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through and discuss which managers are going to be sacked this season in the Premier League. Here are my 5 tiers. I've got he will just stay as the manager. Then I've got leave mid-season. I've got sack mid-season as well as leaving the season and sack in the season. So let's get into this immediately. Starting off with Mikel Arteta. And I guess the question with Arteta is what would it take for him to be realistically sacked this season? I think it would take so much considering he's just won the Premier League. He'd probably have to have a very similar season to what Arne Slot's just had at Liverpool. And realistically, I can't see this happening with Arteta. Could he leave? Maybe if he got a really good job opportunity, but I think he's locked in for Arsenal for quite a while. I'm going to put Arteta into keep. Then I'm on to the next manager, and it is Unai Emery. And similar to Arteta, it would take so much for him to be sacked as manager this season, and I just can't see it happening. Could he leave? I think there is a potential that Unai Emery could be given a really good job. He may decide to walk at some point, but I think he will stay. I think he'll stay loyal to Villa. I think he's really enjoying his time at Villa. He likes the control he has around the club, so I think he will remain. Then I'm on to Marco Rose, who is the new Bournemouth manager. I like this appointment of Marco Rose. He's previously done well in Germany. He's come through at Red Bull. He plays a pressing style of football, which isn't a huge surprise when you come through at Red Bull. I think this is a very good replacement for Andoni Iraola, and I just can't see Bournemouth sacking him. I think they're a really well-run club. I think they've made a good appointment here. I'm going to put him into keep as well. Then I'm on to Keith Andrews. He's coming off a really good season at Brentford. Once again, similar to Bournemouth, I don't think Brentford would sack someone like Keith Andrews that's doing a good job right now. Even if he was to underperform this season, it would only be if Brentford were in a relegation battle they'd consider the sacking of Keith Andrews. Could he leave? He could potentially get a job opportunity midway through the season or at the end of the season, but once again, I'm going to put Keith Andrews into keep. I think he'll do at least one more season at Brentford, and I think people would be a bit nervous about giving Keith Andrews a job after what happened with Thomas Frank at Brentford. Then I'm on to Hertzler. Now, this is an interesting one because I actually think Hertzler isn't a great manager. I think he's a bit overrated, is Hertzler. I think he's done an okay job at Brighton. I think he sort of just met expectations. And my problem with a manager like Hertzler is that his Brighton side have been very inconsistent when he's been manager in the last couple of seasons. In terms of which category I'd put him into, I think I'd probably stay with keep. I don't see him leaving and getting a better job, and I don't see him being sacked as manager. The only thing that's maybe tempting me think he could go into one of the other categories is he is in the Conference League this season. Could potentially Hertzler win the Conference League and he could get another job at the end of the season. I don't think that will happen, so I'm going to keep him in the keep category. Then I'm on to Xabi Alonso. Once again, I'm going to be quite boring here. I think Alonso will remain as Chelsea manager. I think Chelsea are finally starting to build something under Bluco. I think they've made a really good appointment here, and I think Alonso has a long-term future at Chelsea. I don't see Chelsea getting rid of him early, and I think they've given him enough control, which means he won't do an Enzo Maresca or Maurizio Pochettino or a Thomas Tuchel and want to leave for something better. Then I'm on to Frank Lampard. He's done a brilliant job with Coventry, but will he be the manager for the next season? I'm not so sure. I think Coventry will have a good go, but I think they probably will be relegated. And I think from this position, I think Lampard may want to leave and get a different job. I don't know if he'll want to go back down to the Championship, will Frank Lampard. So for that reason, I'm going to put Frank Lampard at leave in the season. I don't see Coventry sacking Frank Lampard. I think they'll stay loyal to him and they'll give him another season in the Championship, even if they go down after all he's given them after last season. So I think Frank Lampard, instead of being sacked, I think he may decide to leave and move on. Then I'm on to the next manager, and it is Perry Sarge. I'm going to put Sarge into keep. I think he will remain Palace manager until the following season. I think this is a good appointment. I think it makes sense. And I think his football will suit Palace well as he plays a 5 at back, quite similar to Oliver Glasner, who is now departed. Then I'm on to the next manager, and it is David Moyes. I have a feeling that Moyes may not make it until the start of next season. I think he could be sacked. Now the question is, when do I see Moyes being sacked? I think Everton are just going to miss out on European football this season. I think that may be considered a bit of a failure, and I think they'll feel they could get a different manager in and move to that next level, which I think Everton are wanting to become once again. And I also think the fans would be quite frustrated if they missed out on European football again. So for this reason, I think Moyes may be sacked at the end of the season. If he was to remain as manager, I don't think it's a huge problem at all. I do like Moyes as manager. Then I'm on to Arbeloa. This is a really hard one to judge. Fulham are a bit of an unknown going into this season, appointing Arbeloa as manager. They're also bringing in some of those Real Madrid youth players, and it could either really work out or it could really fail. I think under Arbeloa this is going to fail at Fulham, and I think he will be sacked mid-season as manager, and I think he'll be sacked with Fulham in the relegation zone, and then I think they'll go and appoint a different manager and they will stay in the division. So that's why I've got Arbeloa and sack. Then I'm on to the next manager, and it is Jakirovic. He's done an unbelievable job with Hull City. Last season in the Championship, a lot of people predicted Hull City to be relegated, but they ended up getting promoted, and a huge reason why was because of the manager. He did a top job last season, and he was absolutely outstanding. He was very adaptable. And in the playoffs, he actually outclassed two really good managers in Hellberg and Alex Neil. But what will Jakirovic do this season? I'm really struggling with this one because I think Hull City will get relegated by the end of the season. And for me, the question is, how loyal will Hull remain to Jakirovic? I think they should remain really loyal and give him this season and the following season. But I have a feeling that he will be sacked as manager. And the reason why is because that Hull City owner is a bit mental. And I think he may decide to try bringing another manager to get a manager bounce. So I think that could result in the sacking of Jakirovic. Let me know in the comments, Hull City fans, do you think this will occur, or do you think he will remain your manager until the following season? If it was me, I'd be backing him until this season and the next season. I think he deserves it, and I think he's proven to be a top quality manager, and he's not someone you want to lose. Then I'm on to Gary O'Neill, who's been appointed as Ipswich manager. I'm not totally against the appointment of Gary O'Neill. He's proven in the past he can do a good job with Premier League sides that are going to be fighting relegation. He did this with Wolves, and then he also did it with Bournemouth. But in the second season, he has struggled. And I could actually see Ipswich surviving in the Premier League and then going, actually, let's move on from O'Neill and try and get something better. So that's making me think he could be sacked end of season. But what I actually think will happen with Ipswich is I think they will be in the relegation zone. I think they'll be close to safety. And I think what they'll decide is the best course of action is to sack Gary O'Neill and hoping they can get a manager that could keep them in the league. Someone like a Sean Dyche who's managed to keep sides in the league in the past. And I think this will result in the sacking of Gary O'Neill. Then I'm on to Daniel Farke, and I think this is quite an interesting one. I think there is definitely a world where Leeds decide to move on from Daniel Farke as manager. They were so close to sacking him last season, and I still think there are some doubts around them. Despite him performing well last season, the move to the five at the back saved his job and saved Leeds United. Do I think he will remain as manager going into the next season? Yes, I do. I think Leeds will have a good season and Farke will stay, so I'm going to put him in to keep. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if he was to be sacked, possibly at the end of the season where Leeds decide, like Everton, to try go to that next level. Then I'm on to Andoni Iraola, who's just been appointed as the new Liverpool manager. And the question with Iraola is, what is his expectations going into the season? For me, Iraola's expectations is probably just top four and to try compete in the Cups this season. I think if he achieves this, then he'll probably be given another season with Iraola. I think they will be patient with him as they'll accept it's probably a transition season. And for this reason, I'm going to put Iraola into the keep. I think he will meet what FSG expect from him this season. Then I'm on to the next manager, and is Enzo Maresca, once again a newly appointed manager, and most likely City will be in a transitional season this season. And I think once again Maresca's expectations won't be too high. I think it'll be to try compete for a Premier League title, but if he doesn't, I don't think it's a huge problem. But to still finish in the top four and similar to Iraola, compete in the Cups and ideally win one. And I think Enzo Maresca will earn another season at Manchester City, so I'm going to put him into the keep. I think there is a chance, however, that City see a better option available and they decide to sack him at the end of the season. Then I'm on to Michael Carrick. Now, I'm expecting Michael Carrick to struggle this season at Manchester United. So similar to City and Liverpool, the question is, what is Carrick's expectations at Man United? I would say his expectations are the same as Maresca and Areola's, Champions League football and to challenge in the Cups, but I don't think Man United get Champions League football, so I think there is a chance this season that he is sacked. I think he wouldn't be sacked midway through. I think Jim Ratcliffe is quite a patient owner, and I think he will accept the fact that Carrick still doesn't quite have the experience to be a manager at this top level, but I think he'll decide at the end of the season there's better managers on the market and available, and I think this will result in the sacking of Michael Carrick. Then I'm on to Matthias Yassel, who's just been appointed as Newcastle manager. This is very much an unknown. Newcastle is an unknown right now. And once again, what are Newcastle's expectations for this season? I think it's just to have a decent season. I don't think they're expecting European football. I just think they're going to accept it's a transition season. And I think for this reason, Matthias Yassel will be given another year unless there's something better on the market which Newcastle can attract. That's the issue for Newcastle, their ability to attract managers. Then I'm on to Oliver Glasner at Forest. And I think a lot of people would just go, oh, Forest manager Glasner is going to be sacked this season. And there's every chance this could happen when you've got two, I think, quite fiery characters in Glasner and Marinakis going head to head. But I think Glasner's in for a really good season. I think the Forest squad really suits his style of football, and I think Forest are going to potentially finish in a European place, and I think they could win a trophy. So I'm going to put Glasner into keep. Then I'm on to Reggie Labrie. Now I have a feeling that Labrie could be sacked as Sunderland manager this season. My reason for this is that there were some rumours that they were considering sacking him last season, but he ended up getting to Europe, so they sort of changed their mind. So straight away, he could be under a bit of pressure this season, despite him having an unbelievable season with Sunderland. And I think the sacking wouldn't be justified at all. But I have a feeling that Sunderland are going to finish probably around 15th, maybe 16th place this season. And that could be enough to sack him. But I actually think Sunderland might win the Europa League. So I'm just going to put him in keep. But I was very much debating putting Labrie in sack or sack in the season. I think the fact they're going to go on a good run in Europe is going to just keep him in charge. Let me know in the comments, Sunderland fans or Premier League fans or just fans in general, do you think Labrie will be sacked this season? And then finally, I've got Roberto De Zerbi. Now, once again, this is a manager where he could be sacked at pretty much any club in any position because of how he can clash. He's a fiery character, is Roberto De Zerbi. I could see him disagreeing with the Spurs board, and I could see him being upset at some point and just walking. I could see him being sacked because of comments that he's made. But I think De Zerbi will finish off the season with Spurs, and I think he will be given another season, and I think he will remain as Spurs manager. So that is the end of this video. I think quite a few people will be surprised by the lack of managers I think will be sacked this season, and my reason for this is that I think so many managers are quite settled right now at clubs where I just don't think they'll be willing to get rid of their manager. As well as this, a lot of managers are newly appointed, and I think they'll be given time. And my third reason why is I think quite a few teams will have mitigating factors for why they may struggle. For example, European football. Another example is the fact that some sides are in transitional seasons, and I think this will mean that managers will be given an extra season even though they may underperform. Let me know if you disagree with that statement and if you disagree with this tier list, and if you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.